Liam Óg's not going anywhere. Kneecap's not going anywhere. And the people who know the truth of what has happened in Gaza today are not going anywhere. Their message from this decision today is just getting louder, it's getting clearer, and there's more and more people coming on that message, and I think that is a welcome.
As people from Ireland, we know oppression, colonialism, famine and genocide. We have suffered and still suffer under your empire. Your attempts to silence us have failed because we're right and you're wrong. We will not be silent. We said we would fight you in your court and we would win. Today we have. If anyone on this planet is guilty of terrorism, it's the British state. Free Palestine, trouble
Palestine! Free, free! Palestine! Free, free! Palestine! Free, free! Palestine!
This is the third time we've spoken at one of these events. Why do you keep coming out?
Well, we keep coming back because the government won't leave up on Kneecap. The government are persecuting Kneecap because they show solidarity with the people in Palestine, and we support Palestine, we support Kneecap.
Why is it important to do that?
Well, it's really important because the government, this government and other ones, they're taking this step to prevent Kneecap getting their message out, which is that they support Palestine, and it's a very popular one. Kneecap were going for years, and it wasn't until they did the big concert in the States where they got covered in the US media talking about Palestine, that's when they became controversial. And since then, we've seen things like the British government, on one hand, they're talking, we recognise Palestine, but at the same time, they continue this political persecution of Kneecap. At the same time, the Canadian government, praised by some people, they banned Kneecap from entering the country. And this to prevent, they don't want people hearing the message, especially young people, because the young people in these countries, this will be the first time they're exposed to a message like this, and they're taking on what Kneecap are telling them, and which is the correct thing, and they're supporting Palestine. And This is creating a problem for governments in many, many countries, because lots of the countries, similar to us and in Ireland, the politicians do not represent the people because they have a completely different agenda. And young people getting together in support of Palestine, it breaks out of the agenda. And if people start seeing the truth about Palestine, they will start asking questions about many other things as well.
I think it's disgusting that the British government is using Irish artists to cover up their failures in Gaza. They find one person who speaks out against them, and they think they need to silence them. But as you can see behind us, you can't silence what's going on. Thousands of people are dying every day, kids and babies and women. And one day Benjamin Netanyahu will end up in court, and not Mo Chara. And that's the end of the story.
Over 30,000 children have been killed by bombs that have been paid for by the British and American government. We have to put an end to this. I love the fact that Mo Chara and Kneecap have used that platform to tell the world what's happening. Keir Starmer and the whole British government have got blood in their hands and they know it. And this is just, like I said before, a smokescreen to take away from that fact. Mo Chara and Kneecap are using their platform in the right way. And I love the fact that other stars, like I said before, are doing the same and coming out now and speaking against this farce.
And what motivated you to come to this particular protest today?
Oh, it's amazing because they're standing up against Israeli terrorism. Of course, I'll go to every protest where people are standing against Israeli terrorism. Well, I am from occupied Palestine, which was renamed Israel, but really it is Palestine. And it is still occupied by Israel. I lived here for quite a while, since 1991, but I was, as Prevent would call it, I was radicalized in what is called Israel, the so-called terrorist state, when I found out about the Nakba, and that was in 1972. That was a long time ago.
Does it scare you about free speech in the UK to see an artist like Kneecap being in court for terrorism charges of all things?
There is no free speech. I was arrested already on the 4th of November 2023 for having a sign saying Nazi Israel, where I was born, and even referring to my family that exterminated in the Holocaust. And while I was arrested, I was telling them there is a Holocaust in Gaza. There is no free speech in the UK, absolutely. Because when you are participating in a genocide, when the regime is participating, facilitating, arming this terrorist state, instead arresting under so-called terrorism for people who try to stop arms being produced in the UK and sent to Israel to do the extermination. So, of course, the first thing they would do is also try to shut down any opposition to their policies. the policies of being colluding with the genocide. It's really nonsense. It is just to divert from what they're really doing, which is the extermination of the Palestinians. Now, the very timing that they chose, why now? Why now? There was a petition in 1947. The British were supposed to impose that there will be a Palestinian state. They didn't, because it's all about creating Ulster in the Middle East for the British to control the Middle East.
Just this week at the UN General Assembly, the UK, along with a couple of other countries, said that they'd recognise Palestine. How does that contradict or contrast against what is happening here today in the court?
Well, I mean, like Lord Nelson is one of the national heroes of this country. He was a one-eyed man. The questions you'd ask from the British government is, how can you recognise a country, but you can't recognise a genocide that you're taking part in? How can you talk about free speech at the same time? Why a Kneecap here? Why is Bob Villan criticised? It's for speaking out. You know, the free speech is very limited in this country. It depends completely. You've got free speech if what you say is the same as what the government and the media are saying. Otherwise, it becomes very problematic.
Mo Chara is not a terrorist. And neither are any of the other people in charge with activities for supporting Palestine.
This case shouldn't have been brought in the first place. You know, this was a case where people were trying to impose sanctions on a band, a group, Liam Óg Ó Hannaidh, and try to censor them, and that didn't work, because it's quite clear to me that the message that Kneecap have been putting out there for the last number of years is about the genocide that is ongoing in Palestine to this day. So it's quite clear that Liam Óg should not be in front of this court. The people who should be in front of the courts, and not this court, it should be The Hague, it should be Benjamin Netanyahu and his cohorts in the Israeli government, because of the pain and the suffering that they are inflicting on the Palestinian people. It's wrong, and it will be wrong for many, many generations to come. And I have no doubt that Benjamin Netanyahu will end up in front of The Hague at some stage, and the world will certainly learn even more about the atrocities that Israel is imposing on the poor people of Gaza. Over 65,000 people, men, women and children, have been brutally murdered by Israel, and that is wrong. People are being starved this day, and I think that we need to send a clear message to Israel that it's wrong. Trying to censor people for putting the message out there isn't going to work. It hasn't worked before, and it's not working now. And the actual fact, when this case was thrown out today, to me that just proves everything.
You seem a little bit emotional just here now. Why am I picking that up?
Well, I mean, I've been speaking to Liam Óg Ó Hannaidh's mother and father today, and I was speaking to him in the past, and I know Liam Óg is from my constituency. Yeah. A lot of young people look up to Liam Óg, and I think today is a really good day for all those people, for my constituents in West Belfast, for Liam Óg and his family. But it's a very, very important day for the people of Gaza and the people of Palestine, because censorship doesn't work. To me, that's what this case was about. Liam Óg was stopped going to Canada as well as Kneecap ban. And I hope that ban is lifted now, because there's no case to answer for. And I have no doubt that Kneecap will continue with their music, with their message around the world, highlighting the injustice that is being put upon the people of Gaza, the genocide, as well as the famine that we see to this day. So it's a very important message, and I have no doubt that today is a very, very clear message to anyone who is considering to try and censor Kneecap or anyone else who is putting the message out there about Palestine. It won't work. People of Palestine will be free, and I have no doubt with the people who are working on that and continuing to put the message out there, that penny will drop someday with the Israeli government, because governments around the world need to do more to make sure that Benjamin Netanyahu and his cohorts are stopped.
There must be a real kick in the face today for the British government in some way. I mean, Keir Starmer during the summertime, when it came to Glastonbury, was calling for, or supporting the cause to ban Kneecap from performing there. Is there a message to the British government today as well?
Well, the message to the British government is that they need to do more. They need to do more to make a clear message to Benjamin Netanyahu. What he's doing is wrong. They must stop selling arms. You know, they need to continue to do whatever they're doing in any way at all to try and stop this genocide, because they have failed. Governments around the world have failed. But today, this message, and I have no doubt, I would hope that the British government have learned a lesson here today as well, because when they go after people who are spreading nothing but the truth about Israel and what they're doing in Palestine, and I hope that they learn a lesson, that they look at this decision today by the courts and realise we have messed up here and we need to do more to make sure that this genocide stops and stops now, because the message is quite clear. Liam Óg's not going anywhere. Kneecap's not going anywhere, and the people who know the truth of what has happened in Gaza today are not going anywhere. Their message from this decision today is just getting louder, it's getting clearer, and there's more and more people coming on that message, and I think that is a welcome.
Firstly, I'd like to thank my legal team, Dara, Jude, Blenna, Brenda, Gareth, Roz, and to all at Phoenix Law. I'd also like to say Mo Chara, I think she's gone, to Susan, my interpreter. This entire process was never about me. Never about any threat to the public. Never about terrorism. A word used by your government to discredit people you oppress. Yeah. It was always about Gaza. About what happens if you dare to speak up. As people from Ireland, we know oppression, colonialism, famine and genocide. We have suffered and still suffer under your empire. Your attempts to silence us have failed because we're right and you're wrong. We will not be silent. We said we would fight you in your court and we would win. Today we have. If anyone on this planet is guilty of terrorism, it's the British state. Free Palestine,